Hello and welcome along to another episode of the Deep in Coffee Hour, episode 40. Our show on decentralization, wealth democratization, privacy, and the technology future we're all staring down the barrel of. Shout out to our friends of the show, Havelo, your Web3 income companion. Guys, it is so simple to get up and running with Havelo and earn rewards from your unused computer resources. It's 3 steps. Is all it takes, and it's easier than installing Spotify or trying to juggle 2 cats, which I wouldn't recommend. Now that you can tune into this show everywhere, basically everywhere streaming is allowed. So X, LinkedIn, YouTube, Switch, Kick, as well as everywhere you can get your favorite podcasts. So please throw us a follow, a subscribe, join the conversation, and send us your questions for our guests as we are on. As we're on air. All right. Today I have an absolutely awesome lineup of guests. I would like to welcome to the stage Jay McCarthy from Tashi Network, Keith from Qualu, and Misha from Nodal Network, or nodal.com, sorry. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. I had 3 ladies last week, 3 gents this week. I'm feeling that there's a bit of gender division is at least equal on Deep in Coffee Hour at the moment. I just like to start off the show usually by going around the table and just asking each of you to just tell everyone who you are and I guess like what your role is with your project and what you're working on in the project. Jay, do you want to start us off?
Sure, why not? Jay McCarthy here, calling in from Singapore. Keen to hear where everyone's from. Always fun to do global calls, and especially where people are from unique locations. Let's put it that way. Seeing that more and more. I'm a co-founder of Tashi Network. Thrilled to be working on this with 2 great co-founders, Amar Bedi and Ken Anderson. Amar here with me in Singapore and Ken in Sacramento. We'll talk, I guess, a bit about what Tashi is. I'm a New Yorker, long time transplanted into Asia. I've done the whole Japan, Hong Kong, Beijing, Singapore circuit. Ending here, and I have done a lot of things. I've been a banker, a financier, a venture capitalist with our venture firm headquartered out of Seoul, Korea, called Spark Labs Group. And then I became a venture builder the last 7 years. And I'm very fortunate to be working with my partners now on our build called Tashi, which we'll talk about.
Awesome. Thank you. We had Amir on before, and I remember that he was based in Singapore, so I should have known that you were in Singapore, but your accent threw me off when we were chatting earlier on.
And my Irish heritage, you were focused on that.
Yeah, that threw me as well, the McCarthy thing. So I would have never guessed you were in Singapore, but I suspect we've traveled some of the same pathways. I spent 7 years living kind of bouncing around Southeast Asia.
If I can add a final fact, just to make this personal, I'm known here as a peacock facilitator. So, Singapore and Sentosa, where I am, is very natural. And we have peacocks roaming in and out of the house on a daily basis. So that's entertained a lot of people. But, so that you don't all forget me. Go ahead.
So you're not living in the city then anyway. Very good. Keith, do you want to give us a little bit of your backstory? Yeah. Tell us.
Yeah. I'm Keith Dawson. I'm the founder of Qualu Network, and I'm also in Southeast Asia, not far from Singapore. I'm in Brunei, which is a nice small little country, but I'm a telecom guy through and through. Straight from school, went into work for British Telecom, engineering went into network planning, design, and then carried on to do consultancy, international consultancy, going around auditing telecom providers and working with regulators. And it was during that time we just realized that it was a bit of a shit show all the way around the world, and there was just so many basic problems having really huge impacts for the entire planet, and the same basics over and over. And it was kind of during that time on consultancy we developed the methodology of being able to use data gathered from devices at the edge to really quickly understand what's going on in a network, in a country, or in a telecom provider, so they can really fix those hard to find problems, those intermittent problems that annoy everybody but are a nightmare to fix. And it's, you know, the evolution of that was to build it into a DeepIn network, because, you know, every project we worked on, we had to try to find volunteers, put boxes out, and had all the logistical headache. And we're like, this is crazy. You know, wouldn't it be great if we already had the boxes out there, and if we had some way to incentivize users, we could achieve that. And that was the kind of foundation for Qualu Network, and here we are today.
Very good. Yeah, I remember we had a chat last time. You were on the show, or probably was on the show before. So and we were talking about that kind of stuff. I had a little bit of my career was spent in telecoms as well, and it's
a very topical thing recently. You know, with all of these outages, and it's, you know, really given DeepIn a good angle to come in and fix a lot of the issues and a lot of the problems we've been seeing. So I think we're in the right place at the right time.
We'll cross our fingers anyway. I think it's been a very interesting year for DeepIn. Nisha, do you want to give us your backstory and what you're up to with Nodal?
Hi, everyone. Well, good to be here and to hear that many of you actually have a good telecom background. I was running a telco actually more than 20 years ago in Europe. I'm French originally, and now I'm based in San Francisco, California. And so back in the time, just to do a quick story short to Nodal, when I was running a telco, I actually had a voice over IP platform and was the first telco to open up communication for Skype that probably many of you used in the past. And we were the first one to open up communications when no telco wanted to work with Skype. It was a lot of fun, and big booming explosion in usage. I think Skype, in 9 years, I think reached 40% of international communications. Then moved to the US in 2011. Built a mesh networking technology on mobile with a company that I founded called Open Garden, and ended up being used for a peer-to-peer messaging application called FireChat that got a lot of traction in Asia. It was enabling people to communicate when there is no internet by basically moving messages from phone to phone. And more recently, even if now it's not been 8 years in the adventure, I founded and co-founded with also co-founders Nodal, which is a network on smartphones. We quickly see the opportunity to use smartphones as a whole network and global network for moving data, and more specifically for leveraging the Bluetooth interface to move and locate devices usually tags. So it's a little bit like the Apple AirTag, but fully decentralized. It's a great adventure. We've been at it for 8 years. We have customers in Europe, Africa, who are using the network for locating cars, for example, or motorcycles, or traditional assets in logistics. And pretty excited to be here with you today. And
very good. You guys use Bluetooth, right? So if you were
Bluetooth, and anyone who installed the Nodal Cash wallet, the Cash app, can just in a click and 90 seconds participate in the network and start to generate also tokens for participating.
Very good. All right, excellent. Thanks, Misha. I thought your accent, I guessed French, so I'm surprised to hear you're in San Francisco. I'm Skype, especially the way you guys say, in Ireland we say Skype, but I know I've worked with French people before, and it was always Skypey. So it's one of the cross-cultural things, I guess. Why do you think, just out of curiosity, this is just a personal curiosity question, why do you think, was it just user experience, or was there something else? Because it felt like Skype was like the go-to de facto kind of thing, like the way PayPal was, but for communications. And then all of a sudden, like it just died. It felt like it just died overnight, and things like Zoom and Meet came out to address a demand. Why do you think that was? Was that Microsoft's buying it, or what?
Well, I think if you're talking about why it disappeared so fast, yeah, I think it's basically was acquired by Microsoft. So
Right.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, they are used to do these things, and I remember, and especially with companies that leverage distributed or decentralized networks. The famous one, I mean, much before Skype, was called Groove Networks. It was actually a suite of applications that would enable you to have almost like a whole office suite on your computer, but that was running in a fully decentralized and distributed
Wow.
manner. Very powerful tech, yeah, and it was acquired and based. I think it was Ray Ozzie who built it, and then it was basically stopped.
Right. M&A.
Well,
Jay,
to
sorry.
the Skype experience, Skype was mainly on computers. I mean, they went onto mobile, but it was, I would say, it was more an experience for people on laptops. So also the time changes with mobile basically becoming the primary interface pretty quickly. So
Yeah, I think it got turned upside down. Jay, just coming back to you, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Tashi? Just for those who didn't see the last episode, and so we can better understand what's going on with Tashi.
Sure. Thank you very much, Neil. Love to. I mean, ultimately, Tashi is introducing what we'd call a new infrastructure paradigm, real-time, leaderless consensus at the edge, and aren't we all, so to speak? But ultimately, what we think we're doing is allowing independent systems, or intelligent systems, as we're now calling it, because there's a big focus on robotics, kind of allow activity, transactions, movement, whatever you want to call it, to reach agreement in milliseconds, validate those outcomes, and surface them for reputation reward and public settlement. So ultimately, we are, it makes coordination, if you will, a property of our network itself, and not a service rented from a centralized operator. So we're not trying to be a centralized service killer, but we're trying to create something that makes non-usage of centralized servers still functional and wholly appropriate and functional and safe and all these kind of good words that I just mentioned. So that's us in a nutshell. Let me stop there and let everyone do the same, and then we can go deeper.
Well, yeah, no, I'd just like to dig in a little bit, just on the robotics side of things, because it's obviously, well, everybody has their own opinions. Personally, my opinion is that robotics is going to be the next huge thing. So just in the context of robotics, how does Tashi fit into that picture? Like, how do you're offering a layer of that, for example, I don't know, Tesla or somebody who is actually making the robots could tap into to facilitate those robots to be able to do financial transactions, or to agree for two robots to agree that something has happened, whatever that thing is. Or maybe you could explain that a little bit more for people who aren't super technical.
Yep. So to take your lead, just to give two visuals. One, you have 50 cars line up at a red light. When the red light goes green, what do we want in this world going forward? Every car to move at the same time at green within a nanosecond of each other. Now, how's that happening? Probably not going back to a central server, but what we want to do is facilitate all those cars at the light moving in tandem, because they've been able to communicate with each other. And Tashi is not a car company. I'm just saying that for a visual.
Yeah.
Something else that we've been talking about and doing a video on, and I believe my colleague from Nodal is coming out with some new news, path-breaking news. So we're going to try and do the same. We're going to have a couple of things coming out, but one is a video, which I think gives another great visual of somebody lost in the woods here in Sentosa, and you release, your robot dogs, which we've all seen and enjoyed on video. But those dogs don't have any kind of centralized command. They just start talking to each other via our network and triangulating real-time data, context. Maybe there's a drone. Maybe you're multi-communicating in IoT fashion with something above, or some with walkie-talkie. Whatever the communication points are, all directly on Tashi, and triangulating a result. So with that visual, that's what service Tashi is trying to provide. What I will say, to create some tantalizing context to this, we've already been called too early by some of the robotics companies, because everyone's so focused on building appropriate and path breaking robots, that they're not focused on the IoT aspect of the robot walking down the street and taking side communications from every living machine or robot within the vicinity, but that day will come. And the other thing is traffic management in general with those kind of communications is not easy. So the first thing people say is, wait a minute, how are you going to be communicating and helping communication with all these robots? They're moving, they're doing different things, they have different sets of instructions. They may not have sufficient CPU capacity built in for you to be added layer or content or usage of the CPU space. So immediately people jump to the mechanics, and we're of course ready to have that conversation. But what we're first saying is, may we all buy in or not to the concept that that is eventually what we all will want. Your robot with a specific set of instructions, but as it's on its mission, there can be a lot of coordination and communication and benefit leveraging from the context that robot operates within. You don't want it to get hit by a car coming down the street when it's on its mission. You don't want a drone to connect. You don't want things to happen. So it needs to have the ability ultimately to utilize the environment.
Yeah, this is the thing I think a lot of people don't realize, because you see like Optimus or whatever, and it's like, you know, does it have the motor function to like make you a sandwich or whatever? But I think a lot of people don't realize that, okay, great, it can make a sandwich, but like if you want it to go to the shop and do your groceries, it's going to need sensors that can, and not just sensors in itself to be able to navigate the world, but also like, you know, once it goes inside a shop, can it find things inside the shop and recognize them? You know, how can it communicate with other robots, and will it be able to actually do anything other than pick stuff off the shelf and follow you around? Or, you know, can it make the transactions? Can it actually pay for stuff itself, essentially? And I think there's a lot of
I just went, and I don't want to go on further, but if you don't mind me injecting a little humor, just again with another visual, there was a popular video which went a bit viral recently of a robot car, auto car in the valley driving through an intersection at night, and there was a drug bust or some kind of very serious standoff situation in the street, and all the cars have been trained through numerous videos to know where to go and how to go and when to turn, when to stop. They had not been confronted with a drug bust situation, and whereas there were many police with a gun standing around, the car just kind of drove right up and got right in the middle of the flow, and everyone's like, get away, get away. If the other car or any kind of robot within the vicinity was able to say, hey, bro, stay away, this is a police situation, you know, because otherwise it didn't happen in a centralized format. And this is exactly where we're headed towards.
Right. Gotcha. All right. Thank you for that. Keith, what are you guys working on right now? What's changed since the last time?
I mean, I think, you know, just to follow on for that, all of the AI, robots and everything, they all need internet wherever they are, you know, quality internet. And it's not just people that need to be online, it's machines and drones and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, so where we really seen where we're building with Qualu is where these robots, drones, any pretty much device can be reporting the state of the network, aware, reporting it back to each other, and really kind of trying to diagnose the issues in real time, predict the issues before they happen, you know, all based on that kind of proven methodology. And, you know, we're at a time now where everything we're building deep in is just crazy innovation, and that innovation needs to be all around the world. And the internet isn't all around the world. You know, there's lots of patches where it just doesn't work very well, and that impacts everything we're building, you know, so there's lots of investment going on in innovation. There needs to be more on the actual connectivity. And it's also pretty complex, all of the different networks. We've all got like DPINs, which are the layers on top of the internet, and lots of stakeholders that are all responsible for building this collective that we all use. And when something goes wrong, you know, you could have the same issue manifest, but it could be from 100 different places, you know. So how do you know which place it's at really quickly and who's responsible, and getting them the bit of information they need to do what they need to do, or automatically fixing that, while also creating accountability and transparency around it, you know. So there's it's amazing just how little accountability and transparency there is for bad internet and bad service and all of these kind of things. So I mean, since I was last on in April, you know, we've moved forward with our kind of main app launches on the Play Store on Android, and iOS version came out. We've also got the kind of Qualu Core software. We rewrote everything in C, so we can pretty much, push it to any device, and really low level stuff as well. And just this last weekend, we started to push more on the writing to chain, using the device ID and using IoTeX. So we've been building with IoTeX. We got some investment from them last year, and we were one of the projects on Deepin Surf. So we sort of like continued building with that. But we kind of see this evolution now to actually be connected to all kinds of different chains, and not just one particular chain, and share insights and information across different networks and things. And from that, we had to do a lot of work on how we actually manage the data, because it's a very different approach to when we were kind of employed by one telecom provider, and you've only got to manage data and stuff from one provider to pretty much every provider on the planet, every country. So I mean, already in the last few months, since we kind of did the last upgrades, we already got data over 150 countries and thousands of service providers and billions of data points, and it's identifying regulation breaches and problems in real time and congestion and all of these kind of things that are usually missed. And I think it's almost 40% of all of the kind of global tests we do breach regulations, So, and when we kind of do in-app surveys of users using the app, I think there's only about 4% of people who never have a problem when doing something important online. So when you compare that to all of these things that are completely reliant on the internet, and there's no backup, there's no going back to paper, there's no cache in a lot of places, like it just stops. And it is, so you think about the power and the actual connectivity everywhere as being totally critical to everything.
Yeah, and I mean, like even more so. I mean, we've had a few outages this year, like with AWS, and it's funny. I had Books from Autonomy on last week, and she was talking about like dejeffing the web, which I thought was a funny, it's a funny term, let's say. But yeah, like in a world where there's like robots wandering around and cars driving themselves, and they're dependent on centralized players like that, and then they fail. I mean, that's just
and the
chaos.
telecom world is a bit messed up, because it's the for-profit organizations that don't want to spend connectivity costs to go into small villages where they won't recover it, and a lot of the governments are going back and forth trying to think of ways of how to improve it, so they're subsidizing it, and then the telcos are just like, oh well, we'll just wait to get subsidy, trying to get money that way and stuff, which doesn't help. And I mean, a lot of the OpEx operational costs that they spend is totally avoidable. I mean, there's so many times they send engineers out to people's homes who then just change the router because they don't know where the problem is, and it's from a problem at a handover to another network in another country. And that's the kind of stuff that happens all the time, and that's the kind of stuff that stops once you have a sort of live real-time map, powered by Deepin in our case, and you don't do those things. You have the knowledge of where the issues is, and the real value that comes from the node operators is you get access to all of these networks around the world. And this edge access is something that even the telcos don't get. That kind of viewpoint from the users is really valuable, and we can turn that into something really valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think that like for the rurally kind of people that you mentioned, do you think that the days of trying to run like fiber for, I don't know, hundreds of miles to some village in the middle of nowhere, do you think that those days are kind of gone because of offerings like Starlink and things like that, where it's
I mean, I think Starlink is more like a bridge gap to get some connectivity, but you still need, there's no kind of replacement for fiber currently, for the reliability and for what we need. I mean, the kind of specifications that we're building and what we kind of wrote into some of these like quality of experience frameworks that we wrote for ASEAN and some of their digital master plans of governance, they all call for this like ubiquitous always on connectivity, really highly available with all kinds of rich streaming, and satellite isn't designed for that kind of thing. It's really good for getting some connectivity very quickly, cheap, but once you start to do more and more, it's not really good. But it's definitely a trade-off. But I mean, also one of the things that we're mapping as well is the actual performance across all of these different technologies, in a single data set. So it's like, how does Starlink really compare to 5G or some of the different radio technologies? And is it as reliable as it shows? And I think the way they kind of route the traffic back down to the satellite stations as well, it has a big impact if it's in like Africa compared to if it's in Europe. We're seeing all kinds of different performance there. And on the international handovers, sometimes some routes just disappear and then it comes back up. And then in Africa, you still get all of these problems when it passes back down into Nigeria and then routes out. So all of those problems are still there.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Definitely, when I was in telecom, voice over IP was kind of a newish thing. Like the business was largely trying to transition people from POTS systems, these massive systems, into kind of voice over IP systems. And even then,
I mean,
it's a different world now
as well. Yeah, I mean, you can see with like AI and Edge and Deepin, more and more content is going to be kind of inferred and stuff locally, and that's going to remove some of the huge bandwidth costs. But one thing's for sure is we just need quality, low latency connectivity everywhere on the planet. And there's all kinds of different technology to help us get it quickly, but everyone's fallen behind where they said they were. So most of these kind of governments that came out with these digital master plans, it was like 2025, and they're nowhere near the targets. And now they're kind of redoing it and saying it's a new 2030 initiative and all that kind of stuff. But unless you're using the data to optimize what you've got and invest where you need it, there's just too much wastage on the middle of that as well. Nobody really knows where to spend the money, and that's one of the main drivers behind what we were doing. If you spend the money where you need it, you have much more efficient cash spend than just guessing and spending it in the wrong place because a vendor or someone tells you they need millions of dollars in new equipment, which is just, they say that anyway. So
waste,
pretty wild out there.
Waste is the reason that these things don't get anywhere near where they should be as quickly as they were supposed to be. All right. Coming back to you, Misha, could you give us a real world use case that makes Nodal stand out?
Sure.
Like I know you said before about like AirTags but decentralized, but maybe you could give us a use case so that people understand.
We have pretty cool use cases, but just to bounce on what Keith mentioned, I'm using Starlink right now. In California, it's pretty good.
Me too, by the way, because I live in the middle of nowhere. Like I literally, there is fiber apparently, but I don't think it's real fiber. I think it's fiber
I had some outage, but I think it's mainly due to updates. So far it's so good, pretty good. Some of the good use cases. There's one I really like because it was blazing fast to build a network, and it shows how powerful actually what I call the smartphone infrastructure is. It's in Uganda. So it's a fintech company called Watu. They lease motorcycles to drivers who basically do like an Uber job, but with motorcycles. And they also lease smartphones. So they have I think a bit more than 300,000 smartphones and 100,000 motorcycles. And in a month, they actually pushed our software onto their smartphones, and it lighted up the country automatically. Like in less than a month, we had a full network operational in the country. And now they locate these drivers and motorcycles thanks to this network. So it's pretty impressive.
Cool.
And if you go to network.nodal.com, you can see the map, and you go to Uganda, you will see it's like in the middle of West Africa. You have pretty much no connectivity around, but Uganda is fully light up. So it's pretty nice to see. And it shows the power of edge and decentralized networks. We have one in Europe, which is an automobile club. They sell you an insurance, and you receive a beacon that you put into your car. And nonetheless, they still see like 5 to 7 theft of cars a day, and they use this network as a way to. I mean, it's not the only solution, but they use the network as a way to recover vehicles,
Right.
and also to know about the habits of driving. So it's pretty efficient also there.
I wonder, do we ever get to a stage where there's no theft of cars, or like very little, like maybe super high-end cars, but like for the most part, it's just not worth it because of products like Nodal and other
Yeah, I
technology?
mean, I think a combination of different wireless technologies, and I mean, obviously cars are becoming more and more also connected. Most of them are almost connected now. So yeah, also it changes. The habits, and yeah, hopefully it will remove theft completely. So it's also used to get to know basically how the driver drives their car, when, etc., when they are in their cars. The thing I'm the most excited in this industry lately is so we all know basically the Apple AirTag that costs $25-$30. But you have pretty cool new technologies. One in particular that enables to harvest ambient light. So now you start to have companies building tags without battery. So that means that you can have Bluetooth tags that can run without battery, and
It
can
has a
be
little
powered.
solar panel. It has a little
Yeah,
solar.
it looks like a solar panel, and
Wow.
it can harvest energy from even from moonlight. So you don't need much light to be able to power the Bluetooth chipset and broadcast information. So very excited because this is going to take over a big part of the RFID market, which up until now requires a dedicated network and hardware. So it's pretty exciting for actually Nodal and our industry, because we start to see a lot of demand of these manufacturers or large logistic companies using RFID, wanting to use battery-free BLE tags. So it's a pretty big market. Like the Bluetooth market, more or less, is for the tags, $4 to $5 billion a year, when the RFID market is a $30 to $35 billion market, so much bigger market.
So I think if we can just talk a little bit about the theme of the show was, could you run a DPIN network on your phone, and that would allow you to pay back? So through the rewards that you get, you'd be able to pay off the phone. That's the kind of concept of where we might be going to. Obviously, as from Havelo's perspective, this is a very interesting concept, because we're all about like, how can you use your unused resources, whatever they are, and DPIN to to fund your life in whatever small or big or medium-sized way, whether you're, the Ugandan bike driver, or, Kenyan farmer, or, a San Francisco, whatever, pizza delivery guy.
Well, I think it's pretty doable. I mean, when we started this project, the main idea, I was an early Bitcoiner. My team was mining Bitcoin back in basically in 2012. So we've been in this, and we followed the whole crypto movement, Bitcoin growing, Ethereum. I mean, Vitalik and I met him before basically the launch of Ethereum, when they were still figuring out the tokenomics and how to incentivize the validation nodes, etc. So we've been following that a lot, and the idea when we launched Nodal was, well, we would like anyone who is not technical to be able to just download an app and have the opportunity to generate tokens, which without being an engineer. And at some point, I mean, now the token is very, very, very low in terms of pricing, but we did reach some moments where it would pay for at least the phone bill of the user with the tokens you are generating. So I think if you combine different services that leverage smartphones at the edge and generate tokens, there's a good chance as the network basically take off and get more adopted and more common, that this will participate to your monthly bills. And I think it's a fantastic way to do it, especially if it's well done in terms of privacy preserving compared to Web2 platforms, and if it's delivering a service and basically enabling you to use these rewards for other things. So, and I'm pretty excited. I think we were pretty early when we launched back in 8 years ago. We had a bit coming close to 1.5 million people installing the wallet. But when I look at the evolution of the market and the up and downs of the crypto markets, because we are very dependent nonetheless on the crypto markets, I still feel we are still very early. So everything can still be done and built right now in the dipping space.
Yeah, I think it's been a fascinating year. I think 2025 has been a fascinating year for DePIN generally. I feel like it's we're going to have a show. I'm going to have a show at some stage between now and Christmas, or now the end of the year, where we talk about everything that's happened. So we've been looking at the research of the highs and the lows of the year, and it's certainly been interesting, especially if you're into the token side of things and rewards and all that. I guess, guys, Jay and Keith as well, like if you guys want to chime in with your opinions on whether or not, is it possible with a mobile device today with Tashi or Qualu or Nodal or whoever to pay for the thing?
Yeah.
Or is that a 2026
Yeah, I think so.
aspiration?
Oh, yeah, 2026 for us. But I think, but yeah, I think it just goes down. With big data plus knowledge and real kind of insights that can drive action, you can save companies a lot of money. Like, with our consultancy orders before, we've saved issues that directly translated to millions of dollars of savings, even for small telcos. And, a big part of what we've done is we don't want to go on consultancy projects anymore. We completely replace what we used to do. We make it more effective. We make it more widespread and scalable. And we replace what we used to do on a very expensive kind of consultancy plus equipment gig, and just give them kind of signals and insights and different views of what can save them a lot of money. And that revenue we generate from that will go back into the token and distribute it back to the node users. So it's it's pretty exciting for us now. We've done a lot of work to get the scalability stuff, a lot of work on the data to get that insights out and building that knowledge up. And we just this last couple of weeks ago, we were at Telecom World Asia, where we were kind of officially kicking off the kind of sales to start onboarding governments and telcos and stuff. And so we're pretty excited to get that flowing and then back to the token. So those two things I think go hand in hand. We've kind of held off from launching too early because otherwise we'd just be sinking too much marketing efforts and not actually building the product. Whereas when you've got that money coming back in, it's that was the whole idea of the DePIN flywheel, right? You can get people involved in a mission and a big narrative, and then once the revenue start flowing, it's going to benefit everybody who's early adopting. So that's that should translate into nice rewards and earnings for users on mobile or on the fixed devices, because we're also launching a fixed device, and the software can go on to other devices. So we're just kind of exploring the best ways to do that, to get fast coverage, with existing networks or different deployment methods to help that kind of scale out.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Once you launch your token, you're definitely stuck you're on a track, let's say. You sacrifice a lot of the mobility that you would have beforehand. There's a lot more interested people who think that they're entitled to know everything that's going on, and things like roadmaps and like what are you actually doing become much more serious questions. So yeah, you're better off timing that carefully.
Yep. and I'll just chime in and kind of answer both questions about mobile phone, but also your previous one about, cable networks and stuff. I mean, as
Sure.
excited as we all are about DeepIn, it's transforming kind of the architecture and maybe more ownership model of infrastructure, but it certainly can't replace the physical capacity of the cable networks as is, and everything is basically trying to leverage that backbone speed and capacity of fiber or Starlink or all the things that exist to basically achieve some kind of decentralized goal. So we're heading that direction, but it's a build on more than anything else. And I'll also just kind of, not to step away at all from DeepIn, we're huge fans. We love DeepIn infra, but we're not a DeepIn company per se, right? DeepIn lets us operate our Vertex, if you don't mind me quoting one of our product names,
Of course not.
to basically make our layer, which I described before, faster, cheaper, more efficient, greater stability, performant, all these things. So what I talked about before when I say Vertex, it was basically our core peer-to-peer consensus engine. It's kind of like our meat and potatoes, low latency, blah, blah, blah. But you're plugging directly into SDKs that you already use, and then you create these mesh nets. The DeepIn layer, we couldn't do any of this if we didn't have the DeepIn layer. It basically lets those mesh nets that power Vertex exist in the first place. We're just to give us a sense of scale, we're at about 58,000 nodes now, our community, that allow basically for discovery, routing, validation, and reliability across thousands of independent Vertex mesh networks. And it'll be way more than thousands. But everything that our total goal construct is basically facilitated by DeepIn. So, it lets everything get paid. Back to your question about the mobile phone, if you use it. I also, if you don't mind me saying something, we'll come out maybe by this Friday with an announcement that should allow drastically more simple deploying of our nodes and lowering the barriers to entry. So we think these kind of announcements, maybe we've all made them, but we think they're critical because, as someone alluded to earlier in this call, if this is an easy and straightforward for the average fan or user or participant, then forget it. You just created friction. So we had some friction in our system, and maybe always will. But we'll have an announcement out this Friday, which we'll share with everyone, and hopefully on this community too, of why things are going to be significantly easier. I will also just clarify, we don't, it's free to deploy our nodes. We don't sell them. So, the tokenomics themselves should incent people to want to download them, but it's not a node sale, which at one point was a very prominent fundraising or financing tactic, but we're not in that mode.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of projects that sell nodes as a way to, well, you would hope. I mean, Helium, I suppose, is the original, but in their case, it made a lot of sense because you needed a device that would do that. Now, like for network connectivity, now with smartphones and things, I don't know. It's the world has evolved a bit, so maybe it's easier to do things at a software level. I'm not sure. It depends on the network, I suppose. But do you think, Jay, just to ask you, do you think what's more important? Do you think the easy onboarding, like customer-facing UI side, or the demand side, where you're talking about enterprise and actually selling the thing that you're building? In your opinion?
I think, look, they probably are all important in various weights, but I think you have to have an easy on-ramp. You have to make things easy in the beginning. I mean, what's all of our biggest frustration in life? Every time I come to my multi-screen computer environment, if I have to spend any extra seconds doing XYZ, it's a huge point of contention. So, and why very capable software platforms, never mind AI agents now, whatever time they consume to get familiar or to do this or that, it's a big problem. I mean, our attention span, amazingly, is shortening, not widening. So
Yeah.
if you can't figure out a way to make things as close to frictionless as possible, you're going to have problems.
Agreed. Bit of a chicken and egg situation, though, in the sense that if you've got the best product in the world and nobody wants to buy it, or you can't find customers for it, like, your days are numbered, basically. That seems to be at least one of the big learnings for me, maybe through my exposure to DeepIn projects this year, there's been a lot of let's build something that's amazing and friction free, and we have to bridge the Web 2 divide from Web 3, where these Web 3 applications are like, well, I don't really know how it works, so I'll just throw some cash in and see what happens.
But I think that's also where one's entrepreneurial pedigree has to come in, because you could put us right in that box right now. If you said, Jay, how's the demand picture looking for Tasha right now? I'd say uncertain according to the market. Certain in our minds that we'll get there. And it's hard to be early in this world. It's not too many times in my life where I can walk around saying, I was early, I called it, I had it, and it became a real thing. I feel like we're at that point in Tashi. We literally have robotics companies saying, interesting. I think you guys might be, you know what? Can we come back to you on that? So, it's not clear that demand is raging for us, but we think it will. And we think you can't avoid this future. And if we have a little extra time to work on problem cases with robotic companies and get very good at this, we just think it's going to go boom. So, the demand is not screaming in our face. We're going to have to believe that it's coming. So that's why I said, get rid of the friction first, and then hope you're right on being in a place to satisfy forthcoming demand.
Yeah, I think that's probably a lot of DeepIn. Keith or Misha, do you guys want to add anything to that about the demand versus the onboarding users friction for DeepIn projects generally?
I think I can comment on a few things there. First, I think it's great to see other entrepreneurs like Jay and Keith building in the space. I don't know how long you have been in it, guys, but I've been at it for some time now. Especially when you have a token, unfortunately, and still today, the token becomes the product. Whether you want it or not, that's how actually retail is going to perceive you. So I don't think the market is mature enough yet for appreciating all the efforts you put into building quality tools or mesh nets. We will get there, I'm sure, but it's still something that I think is good to be aware of. To comment on what Jay said on the user experience. We always built that Nodal very simple user experience. Like I said, it takes 90 seconds to onboard onto the Cash App, but I don't think it does everything. Nonetheless, it's becoming a very fragmented market, it's so not only you need to have a very simple onboarding experience, but visibility is key, and it's becoming harder and harder. At least that's what I feel, to get actually visibility for, especially a mobile app or software, because the space is so crowded. So you have to be very creative and inventive to get that visibility. It's fantastic that Hivelo is hosting us and giving us the opportunity to talk about what we do. So that's a good thing.
Actually, it's DeepIn Coffee Hour now. Hivelo is now just a sponsor of this show. We've had to separate because the show has been so successful that it was sort of taking over our comms on the social media for Hivelo was like all about DeepIn Coffee Hour, and it just didn't make any sense anymore. This was originally a show for partnerships to try and help us make great partnerships and open conversations with the interesting people so that we could integrate later and make it all more easily with a value-led thing. And now it's just taken off. By episode 30, we had more than 3 million views of the show. So I don't know. This is episode amazing. 40, so hopefully it's over 4 million at this stage. We'll have to check later.
That's amazing. So I think it's key to have a very frictionless onboarding, but I think it's we have to do the efforts and to be creative in how we communicate and market actually these services.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think with us it's a big education as well. And because you know, working with telcos, there's a lot of barriers in there, even inside their own company. They don't communicate, you know, and you're then coming to them with a bit of a paradigm shift that is exposing all of their problems and all of their pain points that they don't want anybody to know, and naturally they try to push back, you know. So it's took a while to really build the kind of approach and get all of the data in a way that is, we're kind of exposing them, but we're helping them at the same time. And, you know, once you kind of create this transparency and you can actually see where the issues are, the easiest thing to do is fix them, not cover it up. And, you know, so we see that there's a big piece of education around that. We're actually developing the network this way to remove the burdens that all of these different stakeholders face, whether it's technical gaps or budget and all this kind of stuff, you know, like 10 times cheaper for 10 times more effective, you know, all powered by kind of Deepin. But you want to get everybody to kind of facilitate and join what you're building, you know, so it's more of an adoption curve rather than a traditional kind of sales model, because everybody benefits when they can contribute and take away as well,
Right.
for the kind of shared benefit. And you know, in our case, it's everyone just needs to be well connected. And for, you know, we kind of always say, you know, let's make the internet better together, because it takes so many different people and we've all got a part to play. And, you know, once we get the data from our network, half of that goes to making it better by actually detecting the issues and optimizing it and improving things. And then the other half of it goes around the kind of consumer and business side of making better decisions when they're connected. Like, you know, just choosing the best provider for where you are is, you know, a big part of the battle, you know. And, you know, the internet isn't the same in this two places, you know, so this kind of hyper localized real-time data becomes super important. And you know, I think Deepin is one of the few models where you could do that, you know, without, I mean, it just costs so much money otherwise. You just know where to get people to collaborate, coordinate, or even communicate. It's half the battle. So if you can, you know, build in the network to solve that challenge was the way to go. And yeah, it's just interesting to see how it's got to be super simple, non-technical, because most of the people aren't technical minded, you know. So that's been a big kind of focus on how we've approached the insights and how we get it to the right people and how we kind of do structure all of that side as well, because we don't want it to be just something that's not used by people.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the reasons I kind of fell in love with the idea of Deepin generally, was this idea that you can create a win-win-win kind of a situation where everybody's winning. Right, I'm just conscious of the time. It's coming up close to the top of the hour, and before we go, I'd love to ask you guys two questions. First, and maybe Jay, you can kick us off. What are you most proud of, like Tashi achieving in 2025?
Well, let's be honest here and say surviving and thriving. All right. You know, this has been a tumultuous year for venture capital, for markets, for matching supply and demand, as we talked about, product market fit. We're early, not late. So demand is not staring you in the face. And, you know, we're in the infrastructure world where you need to fit in and be value added and be synergistic and all these words, right? So, you know, you don't pop something out of the market and say, look at that, sales are going crazy. So I think we also, when you're a young company like us, maybe to answer your question more specifically, some people say, we were friendly with Microsoft here, the head of their organization, and we went in to get some coaching, some mentorship about, what do you think, our little tech company here, you know, can we make it in the world? And they were like, well, your technology doesn't just apply to robotics or multiplayer gaming or IoT. You know, you can apply this to financial transactions, travel, like they're in everything. And we can't do that. We can't afford that. And someone else of significance on the West Coast said, oh yeah, you should hire 10 guys right now. And in every vertical, see where you get the most traction and then focus on that and dump a lot of dollars on it. It's like, I think this is what Silicon Valley would do many times. And unfortunately, we don't have those kind of resources. So you need to be fed humility and make hard decisions and grow where you can and show traction where you can, with the firm desire to be capable, if not prominent, in all those verticals going forward. But you can't do it overnight. And so you just need to find traction and show people traction and deserve to live another day. I saw a video by Jensen Huang this week, which kind of struck me, because all I know, he's a $5 trillion guy. And he was talking about giving his philosophy. And he said, I don't need to change the world overnight. I know that if I can live to fight another day and do that consecutively, that I'm onto something. It means I'm going to thrive and grow in this wonderful tech industry. And I was like, well, that was a bit of a humble view too, because so many of us feel we need to pop onto the scene, make impact, be hot. Let's face it, if you go into a TG, which we are, by the way, in January of 2026, right around the corner, where's your hype? Where's your blowout story? But, I assume his position a little bit. Like, if we're valid and we know what we're doing and we have deep tech here that can be relevant, and we're already, getting that feedback now with some of the great robotics conversations we've had with people, then we're going to live to fight another day and keep thriving in this industry. So we're happy with that. And I guess that's what we're proudest of in 2025.
Awesome. Thank you. Keith?
Yeah, I think for me and Kualu as well, I mean, really seeing the whole idea come alive, from, when I first wrote the white paper, I think it was 2017 or something, and it was only during COVID, when everyone started talking about how bad the internet was, that we really started to pick things up and see how we're going to do it. But, with this year, we've launched in the early versions, and to actually see the data coming in from, all of the different countries, and actually doing a better job than I used to do on those consultancy days with specialist equipment and really over-engineered systems, that was a super proud moment. And that really kind of validated that you don't need permission to really see all of these issues inside networks. And, and that was it. So that was the kind of big kind of proud moment when we just see that, and we can drill down into any country, in any operator, and there's thousands of them, and really see, we can understand their networks better than they know themselves. And then from that, it's just like, how do we extract this into the different products and services, which is a lot, like Jay was saying, there's lots of different verticals that need those kind of services. And the same for us. It's, do you go consumer? Do you go business? Do you go? So we think the data there now is, better than what we kind of used to deliver on these expensive projects and consultancy gigs for a lot of money. So we're going to try to focus on that. And that's kind of a big thing we're focused on first. And then we're going to expand that out into the different kind of consumer and plugins and all that kind of stuff, and coming up. So yeah, it's great.
Cool. I mean, I imagine you've got solid product market fit and a solid value prop in terms of if you're contacting a telco and how you can save them money and create efficiency and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's.
I mean, we've got 20 years of case studies using the same methodology kind of thing. And in many instances, we kind of, within an hour, fixed issues that have been going on for years that were kind of impacting entire countries. So, we're really excited to bring that same value at scale to everyone, because, those case studies, they were leaking millions of dollars for even small countries. And just not just the direct cost of the telco, it's the business and all of the enterprise and all of the e-commerce and everything else that's attached with that kind of bad internet. And it's just so important for making sure everyone gets the opportunity in the kind of modern world to be always on.
Misha, what are you most proud of from 2025 for Nodal?
I think keeping on the fighting and being there and shipping is a great achievement in this space. But we did some very nice experiment in 2025, actually, to improve community experience. And so we integrated a protocol called XMTP, which is decentralized messaging. So now when you have transactions happening inside your Nodal Cash wallet, you can also exchange message with people in a decentralized manner. It was under test, it's coming into production, and we plugged to that some AI agents. So I'm pretty actually proud of. So one AI agent is the Click AI agent. We have this app called Click where you can take a photo and prove that photos and videos you take are real, and they help building your profile on the Nodal Cash app. And you can submit these photos to the AI agent, and if he likes your photo and you participate in the live contest, basically the AI basically pays you for the quality of your photography. So that's pretty cool. And we are just shipping now a new one, which is a Nodal AI agent where you get paid when you participate in the growth of the network. So when you reshare the news, and that's just being shipped right now. So it's a nice combination of decentralization, messaging, payment, and the community incentives, all that basically built within a single chat experience on the app. So that has been pretty cool, I think, achievement to ship these.
Cool. All right, awesome, thank you. And just then, if you want to just answer the next question I was going to ask, which is also the final question for you guys, which is, what are you most excited about in 2026? Like, what have we all got to look forward to from Nodal? And Misha, you may as well just keep going.
Yeah, well, we are working to really ship a new version of a smart contract that would enable any developer to directly add identities and tags to the network and basically receive updates from the network and using the Nodal token. So that's pretty excited. I think it's going to be in the Q2 of next year. And then we have a pretty big announcement, but I keep it as a surprise because I think it's going to, if it's communicated well, it's going to shake up a lot of basically assumption and show I think how Web3, I think, and DePIN can be pretty powerful and also ahead in terms of innovations. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that. By all means, reach back out when it's time for that. We'll have a chat again. Jay, do you want to tell us what we can all look forward to from Tashi in 2026?
Sure. Simple. We're in full commercial mode, traction mode. I think we've had some pretty exciting partnership conversations, and it's all about showing your revenue capabilities, and we're fully in that mode. So we also, as I mentioned earlier, have our TG coming up in January.
Mm-hmm.
We're using Metaplex for a launch pool, and have some other interesting announcements coming up with DEXs and SEXs. So yes, stay tuned. Happy to share our information for anyone that cares. And I think it's going to be a full commercial year for us ahead. Exciting times. And as you said, Neil, for us, robotics is, let's take an Elon quote. How can we not have an Elon quote in an hour of discussion? He sees it as a 30 trillion revenue business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the biggest product on the planet. And we are working very proudly within a foundational community called Intercognitive, which is headed by Rich Robinson of Animoca. And Auki, AUKI, was a proud founding member who invited us to be a founding member, GeoNet, Peak, and others all in it. Sorry for whoever I left out. But it's a growing community. Just can't name everybody. But I think the combination of all of our efforts is going to lead to exciting times. And Auki, the founder Niels, helped us understand that this industry has not scaled yet, right? Everybody is building what they're capable of building. They're enhancing their efforts with AI, and this industry has not anywhere taken off in scale. Like, that's kind of amazing because we're all reading about it. We already think it's taken over the world. It just hasn't scaled yet. So if we can, with our partners and like-minded people, be part of this trajectory, as Elon said, to 30 trillion somewhere along the way, forgive me for these big numbers, then there's a big opportunity and hard work ahead of us. But we're very excited to engage.
Yeah, 100%. I really want to see deep in that opportunity. Keith, 2026?
I
Qualu?
think, yeah, much the same for Qualu. I mean, we're coming out of this phase where we've really done a lot of the foundational work, built everything to scale and make sure everything's running, working, flowing properly. And now it's kind of the commercialization and getting telcos, governments to start to use it. And then that, that's obviously going to lead to real world impact. So what you will see is a lot of improved internet quality around the world as we start mopping up these issues and start holding accountable these telcos accountable as well. And we have a lot of other stuff that's coming out, a lot of the community, the mobile side as well, and that interaction. Pretty like the Google Maps of the internet, basically, and really, everything we collect has got a geo component to it. And when we're traveling, moving, wherever we are, we really kind of see Qualu with like your connectivity assistant. So we're really excited to see that grow and get more visible. We've been kind of in stealth mode, just flying under the radar, getting ready to go. And so I think there's lots of exciting stuff. And obviously the token as well, the QXT token, which is going to tie all of that to the network and reward all of those node operators and early investors for really believing in the vision and helping us build through and be able to just stay focused on what we feel is going to be one of the most important things at the most important time. The internet is probably the most important thing we've ever built, and it's absolutely key to everything we do. And Qualu will be there to make sure it's running well for everybody. And looking forward to working with all of the guys, all the DPINs and all that as well as we go.
Yeah, 100%. We need the internet now. We've passed the point of no return with that.
Yeah.
So it needs to be good. It needs to be good everywhere. Guys, listen, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Maybe if you just want to tell everybody where they can find out more about what you're doing and where your community is in case they want to jump in. Jay, do you want to go first again, and then Keith, and then Misha? Is just the way my screen is ordered.
Well, Tanashi.network is our website, and that's, I guess, the easiest place. We're all on Telegram. We're all on X.
Right.
So hopefully that
The usual spots.
Yep.
Cool. Keith?
Yeah, I think, if you follow us on X, Qualu_network, we kind of put a lot of stuff on there. And, check us out on the iOS store, the Android, the Qualu app. It's free to download and start running your node and become a guardian of the internet and make sure it's, we're on track for making the internet better for everybody.
Ooh, guardian of the internet. I like that.
Yeah.
That's sexy copy. You should use that more.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Misha?
The Nodal Network, we are at Nodal Network on X. And then you can find us on the Play Store or the App Store on the Nodal Cache app. We also have this cool photo app, like I mentioned, called the Click app, that helps you prove any photo or video you take. And
Amazing.
they are real. Yeah. Thank you, Neil.
All right.
Thank you,
Guys,
everyone.
thanks a million for joining us today.
Thanks,
and a huge thank you to all 2,500 of you that are tuned in at the moment for tuning in again to another episode of the Deep in Coffee Hour. If you're not already following us on X, YouTube, Kick, Twitch, we're everywhere. You can also catch the episodes on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts after the fact. We would very much appreciate it if you could throw us a like, a follow, or a subscribe, depending on your platform of choice. And we will be back again next week for another episode. We have a few weird and wonderful episodes coming up with the end of the year, Christmas and New Year's. So that'll be stuff to look forward to. So stay tuned to x.com/Deep in Coffee Hour for the updates there. And just a final shout out to Havelo, our sponsor of this podcast. If you go to havelo.com, you'll be able to download the app. It's free to use, super simple to set up. Take you about 6 minutes to set the whole thing up and get your Havelo node up and running so that you can essentially rent out whatever resources your computer has that you're not using and get some of those sweet deep in rewards. And there's a whole bunch of new stuff coming in the new year. So I'm very excited about what's coming in 2026 for Havelo. And we're going to do a whole episode on that in the next couple of weeks. So again, stay tuned at Deep in Coffee Hour on X for all of the latest updates. And until next week, guys, be kind to each other out there.